Hey chat, what's up? Thanks for the glizzy sacrifice, Saru. Appreciate it. It's the Hurricane Prep stream. Hope you guys are ready. Also, we're Seagull mode today because I just realized I've had the toggle off for at least 3 streams. Yeah, interesting graphics, huh? You think I should put on the sexual themes flag? I'm kinda on the fence about it. Oh my god, hi! Lirio, Saru, Plaus, Waifu, both my mods are in chat today. Sweet. Spicy. Or Noodle. It does... God, we go back and forth. RM didn't wear makeup. Kinda. I got all dressed. I got my camera ready. We go back and forth on what your name is all the time, Spicy. Like, we call you Spicy, and then we go you Noodle, and then we call you Noodly, and then we go back to Spicy, and nobody says shit about it. But I'm saying shit about it right now. Actually, before I get started, because it's going to be a short stream today. We're probably going to end at 9, hard stop, because it's, you know, it's a work night. Waifu needed some attention on Friday, so we delayed. Really mad. I got groomed by my mod. It wasn't even the hammer mod. There's something I want to show you, though. I'm going to pause the music real quick. Because there's something I want to show you for the Final Fantasy 14 peeps out here. I was following my daughter around through MSQ because I'm trying to get her to the Gold Saucer so she can get her otter before that event's over. And, well, I don't know how long it's been like this, but y'all gotta see this shit. Alright, we ready? We ready? There we go. I don't know if this has always been this way. Go attack the little guys. Yeah. I forget what level MSQ this is. It's like somewhere around level 10. Yeah, come back over here. Yeah, come back over here. And attack the guys right in front of us. This is after it had already happened and it killed her. So we're like, you know what? I'm going to record this. No, not the Hornets. The Kirans. All right, I'm going to pop. Did you see that arrow? Did you see it? I want to do it one more time. Do you see where that arrow's coming from? It gets worse. Oh, yeah. What the fuck? Let's keep going. Thank you.
Oh, Lord.
I believe those are like level 35, something like that. It gets worse. Yeah, that shouldn't be happening.
No. Hey, Dad.
Yeah, do it in the cave. It is at that moment she knew that she'd fucked up. Watch the damage. They're going to hurt her before they drop from the top. Yeah, you see the arrows coming from up top?
Yeah, that.
Did you see that? Did you see that? Let's see if I can. Hold on.
Yeah, that.
Bonk. She's level like 15, 17. Like, she's over leveled as shit. She's over leveled as shit in this clip. Okay, so what you're looking at, Plaws, is there is a low level area and a high level area divided by like a sheer cliff, with the high level mobs on top of the cliff and the low level mobs below it. So they're sending us on a low level quest at the bottom of this cliff. And for some reason, the aggro radius is so large, it is getting the level 30, level 35 mobs aggroed from the top of the cliff. And they're just like jumping down on top of my daughter here. And actually, they're doing damage before they even start falling. Like, they get to the edge of the cliff, and then I guess their aggro is... I guess NPCs have an aggro column instead of a circle. Alright, thank you. So, that was that. You know, probably related to this graphic as well, because if you're doing that No, that's my daughter. Because if you're doing that solo, that probably kills you. Almost Lala, more accurate, almost. Almost. Oh, dude, it would be weird for waifu to be that far back in MSQ. You did do this when you were that low level. You have to. It is the MSQ. Furious typing. Furious typing. Would we have remembered aggroing the big birds? I'm not sure. I'm just asking chat how long it's been like this. Because, like, how long have Sprouts been dealing with this shit? You might... I don't know, maybe... I remember having to do that. It's at the foot of the, Oh, you know what? This is before you leave your main area. So if you started anywhere... If you started in the 12's Wood, you have to do this. This is like before they give you the big tour and unify the MSQ. This only applies to 12's Wood Sprouts. This cutscene cannot be skipped. All right. Don't remember it from Conjurer days then. Yeah, I don't... It's a really quick-ass quest. Yeah, I don't remember getting gangbanged like that either. It has been over a decade. And, like, when I was going through this, I also had, like, some high-level goober following me around. So, like, I'm not sure how many Sprouts are dealing with this actively in a way that they're just not like, I don't... whatever. I'll just have my friend come and help me, you know, with the birds. And then nothing ever gets reported. But, I don't think that's right. That doesn't look right to me, the axe beaks jumping down from the top of the cliff to assault, like, because if you blitz the MSQ, this is around like MSQ 10. I didn't have any sugar daddy carry me through MSQ. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's a side quest? I seem to remember having to do it. Axe peaks from the top rope! Yeah, exactly. God should not have been aggroed. That is right. But, apparently my daughter aggroes God. Oh, you know what? That's actually a good segue into our topic right now. So, give me a sec. We are going go to the board. I imagine it's sometimes lined up in aggro to world boss. There's been some strange aggro stuff going on with her entire MSQ. That one was just like the most egregious. But when she aggroes, like, did you see? Hold on, we're actually going to go back through that. There's a part I want y'all to see because, like, the axe beaks kind of steal the show, but there's another part at the cave. There's another part at the cave. Or, no, actually, it's before the cave. Because she aggroes stuff from inside of the cave. No, not the Hornets. The Kirans. But you'll see, like, there's a Kiran, like, way back in the right. And if you're, like, 7 levels over... First of all, if you're that high... If you're that much over-leveled to the mob, you should be able to pull those one at a time. If they're not explicitly aggro-linked, and I don't think they are. And also the passive mob, yeah. The passive mob also got aggroed from Narnia. Like, unless they're aggro-linked, and I didn't see any aggro-links, she's high enough level, she should be able to pull one of those at a time. Yeah, there's no aggro-links there. But she get all the way inside the cave. Thank you. Fucking crazy, dude. So that's gonna be a problem about Shadowbringers. Does it not? Anyway. We'll go with red. Well, that's not red. Put the music back on, too. Exclamation mark fish while I fiddle with things. Kikirin. We're talking about hurricane season. Yippee! I guess I could do, like, the little... I could do the little flags. We got a little red square, rectangle. Waifu had a good weekend, right, Waifu? Let's see. I doubt y'all can hear her at all. Oop. Dang it. It just keeps looking worse and worse. The more I try to fix this, the worse it looks. I need to get those brushes with, like, the square edges. But until then... Also, I'm glad I did this stream today, because I just basically did not have prep time on Friday. Oh yeah, Waifu went to Goth Night. Out with the girlies. But I had 2 hours of stream prep today, and I grabbed all sorts of pictures, and it was great. I think I like having 2 hours of stream prep. 1 is too little. Like, I can do it in 1, but 2 is very comfy. Anyway, we're going to talk about hurricane season. Wabbit season. Let's see. Let's go here. First thing I want to talk about is, like, the Saffir-Simpson scale. That's a little stretched. Let's change the transform on that. You also can't read that for shit. Hold on. I don't know. Maybe you can. It's actually very tiny on my screen. Oh. Waifu's here with the coffee. Ugh, that's a tight-ass man pussy you got there. Yeah? I, I, I don't know what he's talking about. Wabbitsies. Maybe you do need the themes tag. Maybe. Maybe I do. Content label. There we go. Done. I've added the label, chat. Is Spicy gonna get the stream banned? Yeah, maybe. All right, so this is just a basic on how strong hurricanes are. Hurricane season starts June 1st, by the way, so we're about a week into it. But it generally doesn't start with storms right away, and this one has. But it's not like it's a... Hurricane season is more of a suggestion. Yeah, there's currently nothing in the Atlantic right now. There's no areas of interest. There is in the Pacific. We'll pull this up. We'll pull this up. Why can I not copy? That's interesting. Open image in new tab. Copy. There we go. That's for ants. Save image as hurricane time. And then we do this. There we go. So on this graphic, we already have Storm Amanda, there's Invest 2E, and then there's a almost definitely going to form area in the Pacific. The third area with the X might get dragged across the Yucatan Peninsula and then, like, reform in the Gulf. So we're watching that. But, yeah. The season's already got a pretty good start. So this one's going to be early. As El Nino gets stronger, this should happen less and less because of the upper level shear. But that's not something everyone is interested in. Basically, we have we have a global weather effect going on right now that's going to make the hurricane season less intense. I'm not sure if it's going to be quieter, but it's going to be less intense. Maybe. The, pulling it so it goes up. That's right, Noodle. Hurricane suggestion. Now, one of the reasons I'm doing this is to remind people who are in the hurricane season zones what time it is, but also to give a little window into how we prep for these storms, because they're actually not as bad as the media makes them out to be, just because of how they hit. So their dangerous impacts are actually stuff that people ignore. And we're going to get into that right now with a little picture of damage. Let me untransform that. Transform fit to screen. There we go. So that's a pine tree through a house. And skill issue. Yeah, kind of. That damage came from a Category 1 hurricane called Hermine. And everybody kind of ignored this hurricane because Category 1s on the Saffir-Simpson scale, let's go back to that. Let's go back to the scale. And we can transform, stretch to screen. On the scale, they're like, yeah, that's a little baby. That's itty bitty. So if I have this, it's some damage, minor damage to homes, and short-term power loss. Most people in these parts basically ignore these. But this one, this area, had not been visited by a hurricane basically at all in over 10 years. So there were a bunch of weak trees that just couldn't take the load of the rain and the wind. Also, keep in mind that hurricane intensity is measured only by their wind speeds. Motherfucking Twitch didn't send me a notification and I was eating lunch. This is BS. Lunch? Actually, almost all categories of hurricane, or get a hurricane party, and we'll go over that later. I can take your load. Well, it's good because, in my multi-chat, your name is White, so it was destiny. Welcome in, Nero. You didn't even see the joke. I'm gonna bring up the joke image. This is how we opened up stream. I did it myself. That's Hurricane Melissa, by the way, if you were wondering whose pretty eye wall that was. Oh yeah, right before stream, I put together like a 2-hour playlist of weather-related songs, so we're good to go. That's Earth Goatsy. Wow. But the problem with the Saffir-Simpson scale is that it doesn't measure all impacts of a hurricane. Oh yeah, Rock Me Like a Hurricane's on this list. Yeah, the tag is on, waifu. I already added the tag. Quit bothering me about the tag. Taka taka taka. I can hear her just like angrily typing. Hold up. Does anyone know what hurricane this was? Waifu is tagging our imp. Ban that chatter. You're not allowed to tag the streamer. You got model or that generated a mod alert. You super pinged me. Nope, not Hurricane Katrina. Tornado Austin. Hurricanes and tornadoes are not the same thing. We went over that last stream. Tropical Storm Dennis. No, this is Hurricane Hugo. There was a hint that the picture is old 70s film stock. So the boat style is also kind of telling. That's probably a very Florida man thing to say, actually. I'm exposing myself. Get mod pinged, idiot. Oh, I remember Hurricane Chavez. Was there an Azure Lane reference? If I made one, I didn't realize it. Boats. God damn it. Boats on screen! That's a lot of insurance claim, implying that all of these boats were insured. Hugo was what, the 70s? 80s? Somewhere around there. Implying all these boats were insured. You've got a houseboat, like... Actually, I don't know if that's a houseboat or, like, the remnants of a house. But Hugo was a major hurricane that impacted South Carolina. So when we're talking about hurricane season, we're talking about the entire hurricane corridor, and that tends to run, like, the areas most impacted are up through North Carolina, maybe Maryland, and then it goes all of Florida, all of the Gulf Coast, all of the Yucatan, you know, that's still Gulf Coast, and then basically Hawaii after that. And in all of the Caribbean Isles. But I believe Hermine killed people as far north as Georgia, and I know Hurricane Michael came ashore in the Gulf Coast and killed people as far north as North Carolina. So one of the reasons for that is because of the low impact hurricane damage that can occur, falling trees, falling limbs, debris, that sort of thing. This is an often overlooked consequence of hurricane damage. Usually it's just the weight of water on something really old. It's not even the wind speed. Wind speed tends to not be the primary danger of hurricanes at all. At most, the second order effects become dangerous. Like storm surge, which typically is the deadliest part of a hurricane. So if we go through... Thanks, waifu. Can anybody tell me what this is? It's really mangled, so it might take you a sec. It's a picture. Very good, Noodle. I'm gonna pull this image up. Don't answer, waifu. Trees and third world telephone poles. Very good, Noodle. Nice bait. Let's see. So if I drag this here. Oh, cool. It's actually big enough to see. Oh, Jesus. Okay. It didn't like that. Doo-doo. This is all Category 1 hurricane damage, by the way. Is that int? Hentai? Hentai? -2. With all the love in the world. -2. What do you mean +2? You've given me -2 for better. That is a -2 dad joke. You -10 million social credit. Is Lirio in stream? I know he does a lot of work with chainsaws, or at least enough work with chainsaws for this to spike the anxiety meter a little bit. Don't tag him. Somebody take her sword. Don't actually take her sword. Lirio, we require content. But, in the back... Let me get the red. In the back over here... This is actually snapped telephone pole back here. Oh, is that a power line? I thought they were action lines. Fucking... Oh, I thought you were making a joke. No, that is a power line. That is a power line. That is a power line. Anybody notice how those power lines are all still in tension? RM, it's your job to take her swords. That's true. Oh, dude, I ground out 60 fates today. 60. I can't buy the good stuff with my bicolor gems. That's more FF14 talk. I don't have the... Yeah, yeah, that is horrifying. So, when the power people show up, do they, like, who's the person that has to touch this mess first? Is it the loggers or the linemen? It's probably the linemen. I would imagine it would have to be the linemen, but they've got to cut power to all this shit. From aggressive giants pole dancing on... Remember, this is Cat 1 damage. This is Category 1 damage. You can see this is flooded. Yeah, it's the lineman, obviously, but, like, there is active... I'm sure they have a way to resolve this, but there's still tension on all of these. Lirio, I think you were on this road. I think you were on this road while you were up here. And after Hermine, there was something like this every 30 meters for miles. Power was out for weeks for anything that relied on this part of the grid. Yeah, Hermine was the 2 weeks of no power. Can't believe Hermaeus Mora was a hurricane. Just burn it all, easy. Yeah. That would be a trick, getting that to even light on fire. Much less have it stay on fire for long enough to help. But, yeah, this damage went on for miles on this road. And this situation with the power lines in tension, some of them still energized. was like every 30 meters down this road for miles. It was crazy. And then you're like, well, just bury it, Five Head. Hermine did not dump that much rain. But this area is already flooded. Like, our water table's really high. But yeah, there was some talk of burying the lines after this storm. But it is actually still cheaper to put the lines up and repair them every time this happens than it is to bury them. And burying them comes with their own problems. The ground moves around here, and not because of earthquakes, but because most of the ground is made out of clay and limestone. So burying lines can be kind of tricky. What's our next image? Got that one again. So if you look at this one, these lines are also still in tension. All of these are in tension. By the way, it's kind of hard to release the tension from these lines in a controlled manner. This is actually another power line right here. It's not in tension. Well, not power line, these are the cables. But these right here, they're in tension. Thanks for the glizzies, Nero. Because of aggressive Florida man fucking, that's why the ground moves. You're so right. There's another one right here you can probably not see very well at all if you can see it. There's another one right there. So somebody's got to go in and get these trees off these lines while these lines don't have power. But yeah, they're Category 1 hurricane shut the area down for weeks because of this crap. Now, we've had a few more storms since then, but since the Category 1 was like, okay, I killed all of the weak trees, they didn't do this. Another thing that hurricanes can do at low power, but typically don't, but they can. This is Hurricane Milton. I'm pretty sure, INAC remembers this one. And maybe a few others in chat. Oh no, you doxed INAC down to, a third of Florida, and he's constantly talking about what city he lives in. But, there were over 100 radar-indicated tornado warnings for Hurricane Milton. And most of those were EF0s, but some of them weren't. And you can see the long tracks these took. I believe the worst damage was in this area. Let me use a more contrasting color. Most of the severe damage was in the green area. Milton was also not a very strong storm. Actually, let me look up Milton. I don't think it ever made major, but if it did, these were the outer bands doing the tornadoes, and they were not hurricane strength in any event. That was 2024. Let's see. It topped out at 160-mile-per-hour winds. If that's sustained, it was a major hurricane. I remember it not being major. Oh. I remember the impact not being major, where it actually landfalled. Yeah. Down in Bradenton is where it hit landfall. Looks like it was only a Category 3 when it finally made landfall. Maybe a low 4. But the tornadoes did a bunch more damage than the hurricane did, is the point. Of course, the tornadoes came from the hurricane, so you can say the hurricane did do the damage, but it was second-order effects. You generally won't get long tracks of tornadoes like this in outer spiral arms of hurricanes. This just happened to have the right formula to do so. It is a threat of hurricanes. So you can be in a hurricane that, like, your building is just not going to care about. And to be clear, for most people, that includes Category 5s because of this phenomenon. So if I've got a hurricane and it's a Category 5 and it's going to hit right here, by the time the eye wall actually gets here, the Category 5 winds are going to be limited to an area of, like, this. As these hurricanes approach land, they weaken. And by the time you get the weather stations on the ground taking readings, there's only a very tiny area where major hurricane force winds actually appear. So they'll look like these giant things on the map, but maybe this much of the area got any hurricane winds at all. Maybe that big. So everybody over here is like Gucci from any hurricane. Or people over here. You know, until the long track tornadoes show up. But the actual hurricane force winds rarely escape a very, very small zone. And the slower the hurricane is moving, the more pronounced this effect is. So you can have 2 Category 5s, right? We'll just, oops, I didn't put that on its own layer. Okay. We'll have a rose-colored hurricane now. And we're going to give it its own layer. All right, now you're going to take the pink Category 5, as opposed to the red one that was slow. And it's just going to do a real quick thing right here. You might see major hurricane force winds through this corridor, like perhaps this far. Looking at life through rose-tinted hurricanes. Well, depending on the time of day it actually makes landfall, they can be rose-tinted. But you might see major hurricane force winds through that corridor, and maybe the 5s reach in this far. That's very, very rare. Very, very rare. Let's see if I can't find a picture of a wind field. Let's do a big one. Hurricane Michael wind field at landfall. Here we go. Let's see if that one's good. Open a new tab. All right, this is going to get real pixely real quick. Maximum sustained winds. So I want you to understand that anything in orange is actually not hurricane strength. So if you see all these orange areas, those were not hurricane strength, and only the red areas ever saw hurricane strength winds, period. So you'll see these, like again, you'll see these giant things on the map. You have to understand that where the hurricane force winds actually hit is pretty small. Without a better image, I would say the category 5 winds. Well, actually, you can see that it downgraded to 4 when it hit landfall, so basically nobody, maybe literally nobody, saw category 5 sustained winds. Let's take that off and stop deep frying everybody's eyeballs. Let's see if we can't get a better wind field picture. Open a new window. Oh yeah, that one looks good. Open a new tab. Let's hope this one is not for ants. Kinda. Alright. This is good one. This is a good one. This is good one. Looking at the... Okay. I already read that. So you can see that the... So if we go back to the Saffir-Simpson scale... And I'll just do that on my end so I can read it off. So if we look at the deep orange here, that's basically a category 4. So anything with this deep orange is a category 5. I don't like these colors because this darker orange here covers the boundary of category 4 and category 5. But you can see how narrow even that is. Like, it's just this. So I was basically right. Category 5 winds were measured here. There's like this narrow track of category 5 winds. Where is the hurricane wind boundary? That's going to be this color. So anything greener than this is definitely hurricane force winds. So that boundary is here and here. But again, that's category 1. It doesn't get to category 2 until the color just before actual yellow. So this is where your category 2 winds were. And category 3 doesn't happen until orange. And then everything beyond that is... This is roughly category 4, this column. That looks wrong. So basically, when you're seeing news report... Yeah, it's basically that size. Wow, it's like I have a little bit of experience with these storms. And just back of the napkin. Can you explain this in Oklahoma terms? Yeah, actually, I can. Let's bring up Saffir-Simpson scale, and then let's bring back... EF scale. Open a new tab. Okay, so what I want you to do is take the Joplin tornado and make it an EF3 for its entire wind field. Everything in the orange, like this, everything this color is EF3 wind speeds. Does that help? Does that help the Oklahoma boy? That's a lot of wind? Absolutely. I will say, though, that these wind fields look radar indicated. And the difference in radar indicated and was actually measured on the ground can be very significant, and often is very significant. We're talking like 10, 20 miles an hour. But just the shape of this wind field, it looks radar indicated to me. And I really wish they would, I wish they would take graphs like this and update them later with the ground indicated wind speeds, because that's what everybody actually cares about, because that's where we live. So maybe this shape is only actually EF2, but an EF2 with that wide of a track is a problem. That's a big problem. And we're not talking about the wind gusts. This is just the sustained winds, which means it was blowing that hard for a minute straight. I don't know what null school is, but that sounds really cool. The problem is the radar's range at ground level is very limited. Because the earth is curved and trees exist, and like generally the lowest it can really get is 10 meters above the ground. Link in Discord. Cool. I like getting live links. Not to be confused with live leaks. Oh, okay. Global wind, weather, and ocean conditions. That's cool. But you can see in the wind field how these reds just go the fuck away as soon as it hits shore. They just cease. So that's one thing you have to remember about these storms. Now, the storm surge in this area, which is the amount that it makes the ocean crawl out of its bed, that was significant. And I have a picture of it. As it so happens. So if we go... I had this set up, but I like being able to annotate. So this is Mexico Beach. So yeah, that's a roof. This is the ocean, by the way. Well, not the ocean. This is the Gulf of Mexico / America. Gulf of America. It was the Gulf of Mexico when this happened. But, that's the Gulf of America right there, this water line. This catches people out. Even people who should know better. Why are you building houses underwater? That's a great question, Spicy. Ooh, auroras and water currents. Tracking auroras is pretty neat lately. They've been dipping pretty far south over the last couple of years. Not south enough for me, obviously, but pretty south. But this is 2018. Was that Michael? I think that was Michael. That seems like so long ago now. If you go down I-10, when you get to the portion of I-10 that covers the area that this picture was taken, all of the pine trees are bent like this for miles. They're just leaning as you go down I-10. But yeah, so what the storm surge does is it will raise, and in a category 5, I believe it can go up to 21 feet of storm surge. Or for Spicy, 7 meters approximately. At those measurements, that's equivalent, really. You're quibbling over inches at that point. Maybe not even a whole 2 inches. So, yeah, so when that hurricane came through, there were areas where the ocean was 21 feet higher than it should be. And that brings up something, actually. That brings up something. You ask why we don't bury the power lines? We do not bury the houses. This looks like an AI image, but this is real in concept. Like, this is how much of the coast in these areas looks like. We put the houses on poles. Specifically because of this phenomenon. Like, bury the power lines. We put the houses on stilts. We raise the houses to the power line level. You don't want transformer boxes at ground level anywhere near areas that experience storm surge like this. That's a bad day. I love hearing Waifu Taka. It's like, I wonder what's about to pop up in chat. Give me a second. There's a conversation I have to check because there are 25 new messages in it now.
I blame Nero.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. What other pictures? So yeah. So that's where the pictures of all of those boats came from. Was That's why Hugo did this to all the boats. It raised the sea level, like, more than a few meters. So obviously the boats follow it, and then when the water goes away, they just settle where they're at. So in major hurricanes, you will see this basically anywhere it makes landfall. You'll see something similar to that. But because of inflation and wage gap and all of that opening up, you won't quite see it this crowded, typically. Far fewer people can afford boats these days. This used to be middle class accessible. Another image of the tornado tracks that were recorded during Milton. All the green ones are EF1s. This was an EF2. And the worst one was an EF3 that went through Port St. Lucie. Oh, and regular St. Lucie, actually. Port St. Lucie's down here. That area, there's a lot of Lucie in this area. But that's Okeechobee. But these, one of the problems with this is that there are no tornado sirens in this area. They just don't get them enough. So if you've got widespread power outages and no tornado sirens, and you've got something like this happening, that's bad. So what we typically do about that is in Hurricane Alley, you will see a lot of these. And that's one of our first prep steps is weather radios. Battery-powered weather radios. They are tuned to very specific National Weather Service bands, or they're piggybacked onto the regular radio network. Well, actually, they're both. Both is happening here. But weather radios are pretty important in this area because you can lose power for very large areas. There's no guarantee there's going to be cell signal. I can hear the weather alert voice in my sleep. Yeah. Yeah, if you know type thing. These haven't been gussied up too much. I would actually, like, there's a few weather radios that are, like, inside of smart devices and stuff. I would actually avoid those. Go to the very old, very analog ones because they can run longer on a single installation of batteries. Kind of like how mirrorless cameras just, like, eat battery and old DSLRs just don't. It's kind of the same principle. You want to keep these things very simple. You want the batteries in your weather radio to last a very long time, because you could be without power for a very long time. And the power might go out before the storm actually gets there. That's actually quite frequent. The power will go out, and then the actual bad part of the storm shows up. And then you're up shit creek. And also the cell towers also lost power, you know, that kind of a thing. So you'll want, if you're in Hurricane Alley, you will want to grab one of these. I am not talking about my fist and RM and DMs. God damn it, you're gonna distract me. You're doing it on purpose. I'm going to have a lot of replies to this thread after stream ends. I just know it. But yeah, I think I've showed all the pictures I want to show about, like, what these storms can do. Oh, no, one more thing. One more storm surge damage. You might be asking, why is the road that close to the Gulf of America? Very good question. It probably shouldn't be. But that problem kind of resolved itself. Um, Sweetheart, this is not an example of erosion. Erosion happens over a long time period with weather that you would normally perceive as not hurting things, like gentle rain and gentle breezes. This is not erosion. I didn't say erection, I said erosion. Anyway, guys, I gotta take a piss break. I'll be right back. We're coming back to the road when I get back. Alright. Sorry about that. That just hit real sudden. Got a little storm surge of my own going on. But, this is not the first time this has happened around here. I remember this happening in Opal. This one's from Michael. This also happened during Hermine. Since it's just us guys. Since it's just guys. Since it's just us guys. Would you like to see something? This will be just between us guys. Just between you, me, anybody in the general public that happens to be watching. It'll be our little secret. Oh, that's the whole thing. This is Beach Island. So, oh, y'all can't see it. Hold on. Hold on. I transitioned to the wrong screen. Waifu has agreed to be a man. Agreed? More like caught. This is Beach Island. So when I keep joking about going to Beach Island, I'm actually not joking at all. The reason I bring that up is because the sand dunes have finally recovered from Hurricane Opal. The sand dunes were basically flattened during Hurricane Opal. Would you like to know when Hurricane Opal was? Flattened sand dunes. That's important, by the way. That forms our breakwater, essentially. Is that the place where heaven is a beach and the girls are pretty? Yes! The girls are very pretty down there. Very, very yes. That was in 1995. No. I mean, I know as a reference to Panama City, which is, you know, where'd my cursor go? Way the fuck over here. So this is like a whole hour drive at about 65 miles an hour. So 65 miles, I guess. In 1997, Steve was shopping. The girls here are prettier. It just depends on when you visit. There aren't as many of them. This is more popular. So there's more quantity, but the ratio is off. Especially since they started let me tell you why that doesn't match up with reality. They took spring break away from Panama City. They've basically outlawed liquor and titty bars and all. Like they intentionally made it less friendly for. Thanks for making me feel old today. Ain't never way. No, I can't tell you about Alpaca Bay, but they took they basically deliberately made it a less attractive place for spring break. Because Panama City kept getting trashed every year, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. And I am on the clock. We're getting close to time. So I'm gonna pivot real quick. We're gonna go to the actual threats. Because the wind field itself isn't the problem. Beautiful and experienced are the terms you're looking for. So, falling / flying debris. That's a big one. And we're having a bit of a shopping cart issue with this one. So back in the day, when a hurricane was projected to impact your area, everybody was pretty reliable. Your neighbors could be counted on to clear their yards of any debris that was easily lofted into the air. But less people are returning the cart these days. And that's causing problems. So falling debris has always been a major issue. Flying debris has actually always been an issue, but it's becoming more of an issue because of human behavior and changes therein. One of the solutions to this is actually hurricane parties. Because the hurricane parties actually had a few functions. They're not random. Or at least they weren't. Yeah, blue. We'll do blue. A well-planned hurricane party is actually one of the safest places you can be. And that's because the host is generally... I hit the thumb button. Dang it. I wish there was a go back to the color I was on button, like a color maybe there is a color history. Whatever. Host is generally the dude with the safe house. So they're either in an apartment complex that never loses power. This is Risk of Rain remix music. Yeah. I went through and I just like, if it said rain in the title, I added it. If it said wind in the title, I added it. And as I was adding things, I would like remember a title in my head, go search it up and add it. So I put this together in like 15 minutes and it's got like a 2-hour playtime, which lined up with like where I wanted to stop. So basically the hurricane party was actually a hurricane shelter with drinks. One of the things you'll see during a hurricane is like the advice, you get the fuck out, go, and you're like, now that I'm solidly middle class, that is a thing that we can do. But there's basically a lot of people that are trapped. Well, you know, maybe in 2 or 3 years of inflation, I won't be in middle class anymore. His snake is solid. I'm not sure anybody can be solidly middle class anymore without just being fucking rich. You know, if you're making 300K, I guess you're solidly middle class for the next 10 years, but, you know, who the fuck actually knows? That's actually good to point out. But, let's just say I have the disposable income to move. So if you can move, even during a low impact hurricane, like if you're directly in the path, if you can move, then move. Because as you saw with the pictures earlier, let's go through those. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that this house is okay. Do you think that person can leave their house anytime soon? Do you think this person will be able to leave their house before power comes back on? Like, this person basically needs a rescue? Even though their house is fine. Because they've got active electrical and deadfall hazards all around them. And it's true, yeah, on foot, maybe. Yeah. But there's no good way to get to, like... This guy, if he goes on foot, is 5 miles minimum to the nearest grocery store. So that's doable, but it's not comfortable. Everybody's AC is out. There's... That's the thing with that Euro... What do you even call that? It was mostly Brits anyway. I say Euro. But it was mostly Brits with that recent weather thing. That recent mini Twitter drama that we do every year. That's the thing. It's like, oh, y'all can't live without your AC. Bitch, we live without our AC multiple weeks a year, depending on the hurricane season. We know exactly how to do that, because we have to know how to do that. The power go out for weeks at a time. That's also why everybody owns a grill. That's another function of the hurricane party, by the way. You cook all your perishables at the hurricane party. Yippee! Barbecue! Dude, I had a cast iron pan during Hermine, and I had a lot of fuel, and Hermine gave me some more. And every day for breakfast for like 2 weeks was a cast iron fried eggs on wood. It was kind of a vibe. It was kind of a vibe. I made grilled cheese, and it was on a griddle, but it was actually on a... Yeah, Castaway breakfast for real. We had, like, bacon, cured meats. Yeah. Like, if you're in Hurricane Alley, have a way to cook outside on non-electric fuel. If you've got a propane tank, you're usually doing pretty good. That's one thing people, I guess they intentionally don't think about it, or they don't care. When you do stuff like, oh, we're gonna ban gas stoves. Well, that's great if your power never goes out. But if you have a gas stove when the power is out, you're a fucking hero. Because you can cook your food, you can cook your neighbor's food. Everybody's perishable food is going to last like a day or two in the unpowered refrigerator if you can keep the kids from just opening it just to fucking look. That's a whole nother rant. But you've got 1 to 2 days to take that gas stove and cook everybody's food. And if there's only like 1/10 of the households have that, you're cooking for your neighbors, you're cooking for people you don't know. It really just depends. It depends on how bad the storm is. That's probably not going to be a thing you're doing in a Cat 1 or a Cat 2, but if a major comes through and you're the guy with the gas stove that still works, provided a gas leak didn't happen, because all it takes is a bit of debris into exposed gas line, and you've got a gas leak. That happens with tornadoes all the time too. Is everywhere the tornado actually touched down at, you can smell natural gas, or rather, the chemical they put in natural gas so that you know that it's in the air. Because I keep saying propane, but what I mean is natural gas. It's not propane. I think it's actually more of a methane. In any case, if you don't add something to it, natural gas is odorless. They have to add sulfur compounds into it so that you can smell it. Because gas leaks you can't smell are bad. Moving on. If you can move, move. Because immediately after the hurricane, you need to stay off the roads so that emergency work crews have a lot of berth to work with, and they can get their work done faster. And if you're not in the area, that's not an imposition on you. It means, and you need to, like, this is why you have to have a plan. You have to do this math. Is the cost of 3 days at a hotel that should be an O, I think. No, that should be an A. Comparable to keeping, or the cost to the cost of keeping the same amount of non-perishable food stock. Because that's the trick. There's a lot of ways fresh food is cheaper. But keeping 3 days of shelf-stable food around is a lot of space. 3 days of potable water is even more space. And it's way more expensive than it coming out of the tap. And keeping it so you won't go insane over those 3 days because you're eating nothing but, like, peanut butter sandwiches, like, you didn't prepare well, and your 3 days of food is essentially, oops, I forgot we had more than lunch as our meal. All we have is peanut butter and navy beans, and we don't have a way to heat up the navy beans, so the navy beans are cold, and you know, it just keeps going on from there. Yeah, we got shelf stable, and we bought a fuck ton of rice. Do we have any water? No. Do we have any way to boil that water? No. But we got a fuck ton of rice. Like, people mess this up all the fucking time. It's not just shelf stable that you have to solve. It's, can I eat it without power that you have to solve? Can I eat this without boiling water? Can I eat this without a microwave? Can I eat this without a stovetop? That's a much trickier question to solve than simply, is it shelf stable? Oh yeah. Yeah, the way the milk goes away when a hurricane is coming is crazy. It's like, what are you going to do with that milk when the power goes out? Milky toilet paper for dinner. Yeah. Or you could go to a hotel, do the math, and price your sanity a little bit. Do the math. Because shelf stable and no prep gets expensive very quickly. The self-heating ramen that you still need to buy bottled water for, by the way. Like, you need to buy all the water that you're cooking for your ramen. You know what else the storm surge does? Do you know what else the storm surge does? Do you know what other fluids we keep underground and it would be really bad if the water table rose a few meters? My decision was calculated, but man, I am bad at math. What quote is that? Where is that from? Sewers! There's no guarantee that the city, municipal, or especially well water is going to be potable in the immediate aftermath of the hurricane. Oh, the internet? Okay. Reddit. There's no guarantee that the water supply is going to be potable after the hurricane comes through. That's not why we have a good filter. We have a good filter for all the chemicals and shit that the municipality puts in the water. And I'm not just talking about fluoride. I'm talking about over-chlorinating. I'm talking about particulates from poorly maintained pipes. This has nothing to do with filtering the after-hurricane poop water. I wouldn't trust a house filter to do that, frankly. After a hurricane, you will generally get boil water notices, like in the immediate aftermath. So you need to figure out how you're going to eat at least. Like 3 days of food is the bare minimum. Like I said, power was out here for 2 weeks after Hurricane Hermine. Obviously, you need a reverse osmosis setup. We do have one. We do have a reverse osmosis setup, but I'm still boiling that shit. Literally. Like, reverse osmosis should take care of it. Should. I don't like that word. You've got to keep battery supplies. Again, this is versus the cost of just going to a hotel. Keep battery supplies. Something that can really stretch your battery supplies is waking up with the sun and going to bed with the sun. Because Hurricane Alley is near the equator, there's actually quite a bit of daylight hours at that time of year. So that's good at least. But there's no such thing as nightlife generally. But you still need your weather radio, you still need power banks for all your gadgets. And the more of those you run, the worse off you are. People buy generators. And they never calculate this versus the cost of what's 2 weeks out of town. You should really do that math. Don't let people hit you with the, oh, you're leaving for a category 1? You're a pussy. Yeah, well, I'm gonna have power the whole time. And because I planned for it earlier, I'm at an extended stay hotel, which is much cheaper per night than an actual hotel. And I've got AC, and I don't have to buy a generator. I don't have to keep a week of lithium-ion power banks on me. I don't have to keep a week of food, etc., etc., etc. This is probably the thing people suck at the most. When it comes to hurricane prep. Because if you've got a hotel in mind, and you've got all this planned out, you can basically bail anytime things get even remotely interesting and come out ahead of the people doing all this shit. Just install a crank on your cell phone. Easy power. Yeah, real easy. Real easy. But yeah, the hurricane party, and again, these are actually less common than they used to be. But they're essentially hurricane shelters in disguise. And they're almost always hosted at the person with the sturdiest house with the most places to sleep. Like, you know, the rich uncle or something. The buddy that, landed that dream job. He's the guy hosting the hurricane party. It's just resource pooling. And, you know, a lot of people... It might just be the guy with the safe house, because maybe, like, all of his buddies live in mobile homes or something. Like, again, you can do this math all you want, but there are some people who just don't have the reserves to do this, ever. Like, lower income people just basically cannot leave where they're at. Or they're, like, living in their car somewhere. Yeah, we've been the safe house before. We've been the safe house before. But that's not the point. The point is... hurricane parties have a social function in disaster prep. But you really do need to stay off the roads. People underestimate the electric hazards. People also underestimate how few people know or care how to navigate traffic signals that don't have power. So really, really stay off the roads. People are psychos after a storm. Because the rules for, like, navigating an intersection kind of break down when each side has 4 to 6 lanes. At that point, it really doesn't work anymore. And whoever has the biggest road, they just go. And they make everybody else wait for a gap. And that needs to be worked into, like, I think that would be a better system, actually. Is, like, you have pre-designated sides of the road that are the caution light. Or the yellow side of the caution light and the red side of the caution light. But then you have to deal with the fact that almost nobody knows what a caution light even fucking is anymore, much less what that means. We really gotta start taking licenses from people that don't know how to drive. We really do. I don't know when we stopped doing that, but we need to start doing that again. Welcome in, Omni. Mag 9 earthquake in the Philippines, like right now? Yeah, we have fallback rules from when lights don't work either, but no one follows them. You think dude, if you think MMO people are bad about what counterclockwise means, try normies. Try normies. Is that right now, applause? Is that breaking news? Oh yeah, that's like right now, like 30 minutes ago. They've got a tsunami coming up as well. Well, I mean, it already would have happened, probably. But, yeah, that tsunami just hit. Neat! Wonder what that's going to look like. Earthquakes are something I have very little experience with. That would be I would have to have somebody on as a guest to do that. That could be a neat stream idea. Like, I can cover the hurricanes. Nero can cover the tornadoes. We'll get somebody to cover the earthquake prep. It'll be a whole thing. Another thing that is dangerous is moving water. Do not... That really has to be bolder. That has to be a thicker... That has to be a thicker brush. There we go. Moving water rules. Do not drive through moving water. At all, ever, period, spacebar, do not do it. Yeah, people don't seem to take those turnaround, don't drown warnings very seriously. Yeah, that's because all the people that do don't die. And the people that don't kind of weed themselves out. The other rule is if you cannot see the road, it's not there. That is also a hard rule. If you cannot see the bottom, post-survivorship bias playing graph. Yep, exactly. If you cannot see the road, it's not there. I mean, chances are it's probably there. But if you don't follow that rule, you will end up dead. That's not what the one Indiana Jones movie taught me. Oh my fucking god. Oh my fuck, that fucking movie. So bad. Also, during a hurricane, it's not like a tornado in many ways. You'll see, like, tornado chasers, and a tornado will go through, and emergency response will be right there immediately. That is not true for a hurricane. Generally, for all the hazards we've gone over, there is a period towards landfall where emergency services are not active. They are in place, but they are not active. This tends to be in mandatory evacuation zones. So if you're under a mandatory evacuation zone and you do not leave, they will monitor conditions, like, but they'll give you some times. They'll give you some times where you are on your own. There's a lot of people who don't get that either, and then they'll ride out the storm when they could have left. I'm not talking about, like, the poor people who couldn't get out. I'm talking to, like, the people who could have left easily and didn't, and then they get into trouble, and generally they're on the coast, and they're like, my house is built out of adamantoid shell stakes in the ground, and it's 30 feet up, and the water's never been 30 feet high, so we're safe. And then the water gets 30 feet high, and they're not safe, and they're calling 911, and they're like, bro, I hope you can swim. Godspeed. Yeah, I've sat at the station through tornadoes before. We won't leave if it's still active. Neat. Because I've seen some emergency vehicles that do respond while it's still active. Crazy shit. Or the water drags a yacht into their house. Yeah, that's that whole the danger is the debris that hits your house problem. Maybe your house's 2x4s didn't give out, but the other house's 2x4s did, and now they're missiles. Or they left some dumb object in their yard, and now it's a missile. That tree branch is a missile, and it knows where it's going. But yeah, you are on your own. So now we can add stuff like trauma kits to your I'm going to ride out the storm costs, because if you don't have to have a way to stop somebody from bleeding out and you need one, it's not coming. It's not showing up. They're just going to bleed out. Is everybody in the house first Red Cross trained? I doubt it. Do not come. Like, the list of shit you need to have your ducks in a row on to ride a storm out, even a minor hurricane, for the parts of the storm that are actually dangerous, not the wind speed, which is just like, I keep reiterating that because people just don't seem to get it. We measure hurricanes wrong. We should measure them like tornadoes. But the only reason we measure tornadoes the way we do is because they're so momentary. The only thing you can really do with those is estimate the wind speed based on the damage. But, like, we should be doing that with hurricanes because wind speed is not the only way they cause damage. But we don't do that. They cause damage with storm surge, which is like the big one. That's the real big one. They cause damage through wind effects, but they also cause damage through just deluge and flooding, which we haven't even really touched on. But if you have a hurricane hit an area and dump 14 inches of water on it, that happened in, what was it, North Carolina? That was the whole thing where where FEMA didn't help and then they stopped people from helping, or they tried to. That whole thing, that happened in a very relatively inland part of the United States. That wind threat had nothing to do with it. They just got 14 inches of rain all at once and basically turned into California, landslide city. And it was a problem. Which hurricane was that? Which hurricane was that? Helene. That's what it was. It caused 145 landslides in one county. In North Carolina. It was Helene. Irma did some shit, but it was Helene that had the bad one. Light work, no reaction? What are you talking about? Yeah, in one county it was 200. 14 inches is small. For waifu, maybe. There she is. There it is. But yeah, moving water rules. Do not drive through moving water. And if you cannot see the road, it doesn't exist. God forbid your car be swept away and then piled onto the active power lines where they came down, because that tends to be how that shit works. The water's going to carry you where all the damage is. because that's how water works. It all goes to the same place, or it all funnels into the same place. So you're just gonna get swept away to like the worst damage in like in like fetid sewer water. Like, it's not even clean water you're going to be carried away in. So your car is going to be full of water, and it's going to be rolling over, and you're going to be trying not to drown in your car, but it will also be poop water, and it might also be electrified, and also a tree might bash you while you're while you're rolling along. Like, it ain't fun. I say tree like there's only going to be one of them. So yeah, the point is, people underestimate the amount of planning it takes to quote-unquote safely remain in the area. Okay, and just tough it out. I guess Noodle has a point there. Just don't die. Just be tough. Just be tough. That's all it takes. So yeah, so just to recap real quick. God, I'm bad at straight lines. Just do it. Okay, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. So you got, like, what people think is dangerous over here. Darn. What people think is danger. Real danger. Wind speed. Home collapse. Because even home collapse is not actually as bad as, like, the real dangers. The real dangers are electric hazards. Debris. Water. 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 Restricted movement. Which could also be summed up with broken logistics chains. Because you don't know how safe your logistics chains are keeping you until they stop. Well, it is water. Water is what kills basically everybody. Storm surges, flash floods, and landslides are like the super nasty, dangerous parts of these storms, and that's why I wrote it 3 times. Water bad. Water bad. You could also say, you could also say cleanup. People die during cleanup activities. Again, from these hazards that persist after the storm. Like, yeah, you've got those first day during the storm branches that fall, but then you have the 2-day later Widowmaker. Those are pretty common. Those are pretty common. You can get sinkholes that happen and die from weak baby syndrome. Sinkholes can happen too, because, like, the water table can go up very quickly during these storms. Combination of hydrostatic pressure from the storm surge and just dumping, 2 feet of water in one area over the course of just a day. And then that water drains out. And then the sinkholes start happening. So that's a thing. That's not a high chance of happening, but is a thing that has and can happen. The water make everything bad. Falling trees bad. If you've got a shelter someplace, I don't care if it's like a sturdy structure or whatever, make sure it is well away from trees and that there are 0 trees that can fall over and hit the building. Because, like, somebody will be, like, 50 feet away from a 100-foot pine tree, and they'll think they're safe, and the 100-foot pine tree will fall completely over, which is also caused by the water. That is also caused by the water. Let's write an extra water here. So we have a lot of, oops, I wrote it there. Whatever, we'll leave it there. So pine trees, we'll just have this little pine tree. It's like a 120-footer. You know, we got your little slash pine here. However you think that looks, this is a pine tree. The root system is like this. So like a hardwood, the root system will be like this. It'll go, that taproot will go really deep. But these pines have like really, really shallow root systems, which is actually good in the wind. And it's softwood, so it's really flexible. In most situations, this is a good adaptation to high winds, because hardwoods are brittle. They're hard. So, wind, bad. Branches will snap, they'll fall down. All that stuff. This guy over here, it's got needles the wind will just go through. Like, not literally, but they resist the wind more than broadleaf hardwoods. Whatever, that's a fucking leaf. These will catch the wind. These little needles will also catch the wind, but not nearly as much. And then these will bend, and like in most windy situations, this is perfect. But if you deluge the ground with water, all of this soil becomes soft, and this guy will just go over, root system and all. Day of the rake! And the whole tree falls over. So the hardwood, it might break here or here, and then that piece falls down because of the wind. When you've got a ton of rainfall with the hurricane system, the whole tree goes over. Good thing the pine tree will just bend on the roof because it's soft. Just like me, for real, for real. So yeah, that's where the 4th water hazard comes from over here. That's our water times 4. Water bad. So if your house is within range of any tree, especially pine trees, K and P are kind of close, understandable typo. Clausmosphere. There we go. That's where my brain jumped. I did get it. That's just where my brain jumped. It's like you say K and I go like Clausmosphere, and I'm like, oh, what if it was this kind of a clause? And now Plaza's lawyer alt is Clausmosphere. That's where my head went. You know, because of the contract clauses. Never mind. So we went from like this was how my brain that's the order of operations. Switch the P with a K, it becomes Claus, and then it's Claus. Santa Claus. Yeah. That's the word association that happened in a split second. And now I have to explain it. Anyway. That about wraps it up. I'm just popping in. Did we talk about fuel restriction for panic buyers and companies not wanting to send their trucks? Yeah, in a roundabout way, we did. We did cover that, but we're wrapping up now. Yay! You got here just in time, sis. But I'll give you a little treat. Just because you just got here, I'll show you how I started stream off. I'll show you how I started stream off. You'll love it. God damn it. That's the only reason you showed up. There we go. That's how we started stream. You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. I'll see y'all guys next Friday, or this upcoming Friday. I'm gonna leave fishing on, I think. I don't, like, eventually it times out. I don't know when. I'm gonna leave fishing on. Enjoy the little that remains of the weekend for those of you who are still inside of the weekend. That's an exploitable line. It times out real fast. Damn. It tims out. But does it Kim out? I'll just close it then. We'll do a few minutes of fishing. I think it might actually be the Seribot closes the chat up. I think Seribot just closes the chat up. Exclamation mark fish. We'll hang out for like a few minutes, do some fishing, and then I'll end stream. It'll be fine. You should have been here at the start of the stream, Sylph. I had like this thing where I was showing a bug in the aggro during the MSQ that it was wild. God was aggroed. Just, I can't send it to her. It's too large. I could show it on stream again. Like, why the fuck not? We're just hanging out, right? Check this shit out. Show it again. Yeah, keep fishing. Keep fishing. And attack the guys right in front of us. The Kikirin, or whatever they're called. No, not the Hornets. The Kirins. Watch this shit. That's your niece, by the way. Watch Kikern, whatever. Irrelevant allied society is what they are. Did you see the arrow from up top? Yeah. She's over-leveled. 2 keys, no I between... Okay. She's over-leveled, by the way. She should not be pulling
Thank
this.
you.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that shouldn't be happening.
No.
We recorded this after this already happened once, and I'm like, actually, we're going to go back, and I'm going to record this for a bug report.
Yay, Dad.
Yeah, do it in the cave. Watch this shit. Did you see those? Did you see those? Yeah, you see the arrows coming from up top?
Yeah, that.
It hit her! It's already hitting her. It's already hitting her. Alright, there. So yeah, that's what that was. I needed you to see it. Just the angered god. Her character might be bugged because it is consistent with her that she just pulls miles. She just pulls miles of mobs anytime she aggroes anything. It's crazy. Even when she is overleveled for the area. It's nuts. Alright, goodbye for real now. Bye, chat. Bye.